weekend racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last stunts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show.
Huzzah!
There it is. Mr. Zamich, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm trying to figure out the Racing Dudes Periscope didn't go live. Everybody else's did. There we go. Now we're on the Racing Dudes one. I wonder why the viewer count was so low. So welcome. This is the Magic Mike Show. The Monday show, if you're unfamiliar, those numbers are, wow, the numbers are jumping up now. Mike and I take a look at the weekend action. Instead of recapping in detail everything that happened, we like to look at it from a, what can we learn moving forward? Because as horse racing bettors, we're always like, okay, that race is done. What's the next big ticket I can cash? So that's what we're here to do. I'm excited. This is going to be a good one. We can talk about Sam Houston, Mike.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. It was a very eventful weekend from the horse racing side. I actually kind of felt a little bit like NHC for me. I don't remember the last weekend I handicapped that many races. We had Sam Houston opening up Friday night, so I did the full Friday card, posted a grid up on Twitter there, did the full Saturday card, posted a grid up on Twitter there. Obviously, the Sama Bombs on Friday, then had a big tournament over the weekend where I had to handicap Santa Anita and Gulfstream, so that was Saturday, Sunday on both those tracks. I think it was close to, I don't know, almost 120 races I handicapped this weekend when you include the Stronach 5 and the Pick 5 carryover Turfway and everything. So it was a busy horse racing weekend. Kind of nice to, I would say it's kind of nice to not look at PPs, but I'd be lying since, here's Sam Houston's Thursday card and there's Gulfstream's Wednesday card. So I was getting right back into it. What can I say? I'm a glutton for punishment.
Boy, speaking of glutton for punishment, I didn't watch any of it, but I heard my Pittsburgh Steelers didn't do that well yesterday.
Yeah, let's just say the first quarter didn't quite go their way. I mean, it was funny. You have all these talks about the Browns don't have a head coach. They haven't been able to practice. It looked like the Steelers were the team that hadn't practiced, to be quite honest with you.
I tried I've been telling people since probably November, when they started hot and they went 11-0, and I was like, stop. This is not a good team. This is a bad team that keeps getting lucky and eventually is going to come down to earth hard. And they end the season on a 1-5 run, and they should have been 0-6. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I was the least surprised person yesterday when they saw what happened to them against the Browns in the first quarter.
Yeah, it was not a great game. It's an interesting end of the wild card weekend. I sent a text to the text chain. You know what? Not impressed by any of those teams. So it's going to be awfully interesting to see next weekend whether or not the Chiefs and the Packers can be impressive. I would say that the Chiefs should be a pretty heavy favorite at this point. If we get the efforts we saw over the weekend from all six of those teams, I'm not exactly scared of any of them. You
know who also isn't scared? Patrick Mahomes. Because what does he do the morning after the first weekend of playoff games are done? Is he goes and buys his wife a brand new mom car. He's like, yeah, this is how worried I am. My priority is getting her a new car.
Yeah, let's be honest, though. It was a custom car. There's zero chance he woke up at like 7 a.m, drove to the dealership, and went and bought a car. Like, it showed up today. So I don't think it was necessarily the focus he was distracted. I think it was more that this happened to be the day that the car got there than anything else.
I got you. I didn't know that one. The only detail I heard is what Aaron sent us, and that it was that it wasn't just he went out and bought her a car. So I was like, all right, that's fine. Still, nice thing that you don't do it in the playoffs if you're not confident. So he's probably already thinking, what does a second Super Bowl MVP bonus pay in my contract? All right, let's get my wife a tricked out car.
Not too bad.
Well, what was the best thing that you saw? I know you said you had 120 races you handicapped. That does sound like NHC weekend.
Yeah, it does. This one's easy for me, man. Friday night, Sam Houston. We posted this free grid up, and it was probably one of the most profitable Samo Bomb or Bomb Squad nights in the history of posting up these grids and these picks, man. So we had epic days before. We took 33% of a pick 5 pool down at Keeneland for over $100,000. We've never scooped a pool before. And the Bomb Squad scooped the late pick 5 at Sam Houston. There were 4 winning tickets. All 4 came from the grid that was posted for free on Twitter. Over $100,000, about $98,000 actually is the exact amount of the pool. There were 4 winning tickets at $23K each. All 4 of them came from the grid. I got sent them to me in DMs. I didn't have one, but 4 people who followed me did put it together, and all the winners were on the grid. A lot of people hit the late pick 4. I had the early pick 4 and the late pick 4 on Friday. It was just, I think, all in told, the tickets that were sent to me were close to $150,000 that members took out of Sam Houston on Friday night, on opening night. So pretty epic way to do it. We had a great time on the live stream. If you check that out over on Racing Dudes, we had both 15-1 winners. Unfortunately, we didn't have them on the ticket. So that hurt a little bit because we were live to some payouts. But it was interesting because the pick 4 payouts, the will pays, if you look at the late ones, were definitely affected by some of the picks. But hey, it still paid $2,800 to late pick 4. Like I said, $23,000 for the late pick 5, $1,500 for the early pick 4, and all of that was on the grid for free up there. So I will try and put up grids for Sam Houston as much as possible. Don't expect it every night, but I'll definitely try to get those up as much as possible on my Twitter feed.
See, here's the problem. Is everybody's just like, all right, we got one. What's next? Come on, Mike. What you got? Like, we've already got people. Swirl's asking when does Sam Houston run again? Runs Thursday. They're on a Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Saturday. Is that what they're doing right now?
Yeah, I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday right now. And to be honest, like, I am super interested in like what the pick 6 is going to be like. So they're going to a conventional pick 6 with a 50-cent denomination. The pick 5 is scoopable at 50 cents. I think the pick 6 might be a great bet at 50 cents because I think you're going to get a couple carryovers into it, and then you're going to have some great betting opportunities. So I'm excited to see kind of how that plays out, and it's definitely a bet that I'll be playing into at Sam Houston.
Best thing that I saw, where is it? I had a visual aid for it. So there's a gentleman who at Santa Anita is the paddock captain. If you don't know what the paddock captain is, at Santa Anita especially, he's in charge of the walking ring, right? Then he'll tell the guys when it's okay to open the barriers for people to walk across, and he knows when horses are coming down the pass each way. He is 99 years old. He turns 100 next weekend. He's obviously not there right now because of because of COVID restrictions, but this is a guy who lived in an orphanage from age 4 to 14 in England, and then decided he wanted to get into working with horses. He's like 4'11", so he's really short. He wanted to be a jockey, so he came to Canada. Ends up being a groom exercise rider. From Canada, moves to Santa Anita, and the second he arrived at Santa Anita, he went, well, this is where I'm staying the rest of my life, and he lives pretty close to the track. This is a guy who still gets up at like 4 in the morning and does 50 push-ups? 50 or 100 push-ups every day. He's only going to be 100 next week. I'm currently doing a 100 push-up challenge where you try to do 100 push-ups every day. I'm struggling, and I'm 32. So this guy's celebrating his 100th birthday, but the really cool story about him is that about 10 years ago, there was a loose horse, and the paddock was open at the moment, and the horse came charging through, and there's a little 5-year-old girl who's just directly in this horse's path. This guy jumps between the girl and the horse, scares the bejesus out of the horse, which is what you're supposed to make yourself big like a bear.
Right. Yeah.
Screams and yells, and the horse freaks out and runs sideways, and finally somebody catches him. But like this little frail old man put his body in front of a 5-year-old girl trying to save her. This guy is amazing. So when I was putting up my annual Santa Anita wall calendar, January, right there, John Shear. I don't know how well you can see it. Not very well because of the camera, but right there. There's the story of the guy talking about how he's going to celebrate his 100th birthday on January 17th, so this coming Sunday. And they're naming one of the races at Santa Anita's card after him. So he's not going to be there, but I just love that story every year when I hear about it. I'm like, God, that guy is just so freaking cool. So happy early birthday to John Shear. Yeah,
happy birthday, John. That's awesome, man. That's a sweet story. I had no idea that even existed.
All right, so on today's show, we're going to take a look at our Sam Houston card, or the Sam Houston tickets we gave out on Saturday, including Mike made a little adjustment between what we did on the show here. I'll let him explain why he ended up making that decision. Mark Heft, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. He says, thanks for the tip on the one in the last Magic. We'll get to that at the end of the show, but I'm not the one you should be thanking for that. But let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. I keep looking because I've got a camera on this one, but then my actual camera's here, so I keep wanting to look at this one. I'm like, no, camera over here.
I got my sheet over here, so I'm gonna be looking away for a lot of this one now.
Oh, that's fine. I need like a producer like in the background, like saying Magic over here. Look at camera on your left, camera 2, camera 3. All right, Bear effing Brian, you mother effer. All right, 3, 2. All right, the first thing we're going to do is look at our Sam Houston Saturday late pick 4 tickets that we gave out on the last show. Did not go so well for me. It came close, and there's a couple spots where I want to, cheer and say I was right, and a couple spots where I kind of got kissed in a little bit. But before we get into Mike, here's race 7, maiden special weight. These are all 3-year-olds going 6 furlongs on the track. On the show, you and I both really liked the 3 Burns DeBoss and the 1 Vegas guy. Vegas guy was riding a big win streak. He's coming from a barn that is known to do well with horses when other barns can't, and he was a 3 to 5 favorite, so we were trying to beat him. We came within a head and a neck of getting the correct winner. Bear Bryant was one that we were both a little scared of, but we also had a lot of question marks. I ended up leaving him off. You added him on, and that pays out well for you to kick off the pick 4. So talk to us about why you ended up making that decision. What swayed you and how you adjusted the rest of your ticket to make sure you could fit this horse in?
Well, the first thing is that we had a couple scratches in the last leg. So I lost a couple horses from my ticket, which allowed me a little more flexibility. I also, in the moment, I was alive in the pick 6. I had hit the all button and hit the 30-1 shot, and that ended up paying, I don't know, $270,000 or something. And I was also alive in the pick 5, but both of those were singled through the 1. So immediately, because I am singled through the 1, I'm going to adjust my tickets in the late pick 4 to make sure I give myself coverage in the leg that I am not singled in. So I ended up going 4 deep here on my ticket, and I went 1-3-5, 1-3-5-8. Look, someone asked me this question because I threw up the grid, and the 8 was in the deep ticket section. And someone's like, you talked all the smack about the 8 on Thursday, all the smack about the 8 on Friday. Why do you have the 8 on there? I'm like, because he's still the 3rd most likely horse to win. Doesn't mean like I'm using him on all my tickets, and I didn't use him on my pick 4 or my pick 5, but he still is the most third likely most horse to win here. And so because of that, I did end up including him on here. And honestly, he shouldn't have won this race. The 3 horse should have won this race. If you go back and you watch the replay, they don't call it out in the chart. 3 horse starts horribly. I mean, spots this field 2-3 lengths and misses by a head. And man, that would have really spiced this thing up because that would have been a much nicer price starting out at 6-1 instead of the 5-2. And I think a lot of people went too deep here, like we discussed they would, using the 1 and the 8. And I think that 3 would have really made a difference in the overall payout. So bummer the 3 couldn't get home. Feel good about the 3. I actually put the 3 in my barn mail, or my stable. So I'm going to play the 3 back most likely at Sam Houston next time this horse runs. And you know, this was one of those where Again, this is an Asmussen horse that I would fade again. I mean, the 4 almost got him at 25-1. So this wasn't necessarily a good bet at 5-2, but it was a horse I ended up using because we'll talk about this down the line a little bit. All you need is one price at Sam Houston, and the pool is blown up because these are smaller pools than what you're used to playing. And it's a racetrack where people heavily rely on favorites. And when you beat a couple of these favorites and you have races that are really tough, like the last race, which we talked about was really tough going into it, sometimes you just need to survive in advance. It's kind of the NCAA tournament mentality in some of these races. Just survive in advance and get to the prices you like and then get the ticket home. And that's the reason the 8 ended up on the ticket here, even though I still hated the 5-2 price.
Yeah, I mean, this is still, I think that we handicapped this correctly in the sense that we were trying to find what we thought was a horse that didn't offer us any value, which was he was 3-1 morning line, bet down to 5-2. We both love that 6-1. And like you said, if this horse breaks cleanly and is able to, you know, maybe if that line is just a little bit, maybe 20 yards further down, maybe he ends up getting up there to get it. But that's horse racing. Stuart Elliott and Steve Asmussen were over 52% together coming into this race. So, you know, they're a very deadly combination. I get it. You know, this is one of those times where I thought a little bit about it, Mike. I was like, was I trying to get cute? And I thought, no, this is a horse that we both thought was vulnerable and that we should try and beat. So it didn't work for us here, but I think long run, we shouldn't change our strategy, right? This was still a horse that we had a lot of question marks about.
Yeah, for sure. And especially since we thought the last 2 races were races you wanted to spread. And so if you want to go deep in the last 2 races, you got to take a stand somewhere. And I think the smart way to take a stand here was either use the 8 or the 1 and then use the 3. And I was 1-3 and added the 8 on race day, and you were 1-3 and didn't end up doing that. But really, to me, it wasn't like this was that big of a mistake in any way. It was we had other races we wanted to spread, and this was a horse we both knew was going to get overbet and overplayed in the pick 4.
We'll move on to the second leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Sam Houston this past Saturday. Race 8 on the card is Allowance Optional Claimers going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Big win from the 5 Skyride. Drew off a huge win. Not a tip horse that I believe that I used, but you did. So congratulations to you. Got a nice 11-2 price on him. Talk about it.
Yeah, man. Look, I didn't love Verrazano's first here. I thought it was a horse that kind of had to use. It had won a couple straight races, and it was, again, going to get bet. Went off at even money, and if you beat this horse in a 6-horse, 7-horse field at Sam Houston, pick 4 is going to pay. I can't harp this enough. I was on Gold Crusher here. I thought was going to win open around the turn, but the 5 ended up winning and created some real value here. This was one of those races where if either the 5 or 6 got home, you're going to see the price. Skyride just got a great trip, sat right behind the speed, was able to pounce and just keep going. And you know, Verrazano first, who was your heavy favorite here, set the pace and had some pressure from JC's Nightcap, and that really kind of loosened up Gold Crusher and Skyride. And because Verrazano's First took that pressure, it was pretty easy for these two horses to get by. If you watch the race, Gold Crusher kind of takes the lead, and then Skyride just runs right on by. Again, this goes to it goes back to make sure that when you look at a favorite like Verrazano's First, that you really love the horse. I mean, this horse was going to be bet because it was first off the claim for Broberg, who was reclaiming it. We talked about this for a reason. But this horse didn't have very much experience, actually had no experience over the track, and all those wins had come at Hawthorne. So sometimes you got to kind of take a step back and say, okay, is it a beatable favorite? And this was one of those cases where I thought it was. And if you look back to some of the races that Skyride ran, specifically the 1-3 back, I mean, it was a monster effort running an 87 Beyer. That was, no one could touch that, and that's kind of what he ran back to here. That was in the slops. You could have said, hey, it was not necessarily a like-for-like effort, but you do have enough interest from this horse in improving Beyers that I thought it was a relatively good play to put the 5 in here, and definitely didn't disappoint.
The 5, that exact reason is why I left the 5 out. The fact that huge 87 Beyer came in the mud, and the best around that was a 73 2-back, and then a 71 when he was still a maiden, which again came in the slops. So I was trying to play against this horse because I thought the only time he'd ever shown real strong performance was going to be in that spot. But you had a trainer, Caldwell, who was 25% with positive ROI at the allowance ranks, 15% route to sprint. The horse had fired a nice 47-4 work on the 22nd. So there were indications here. Just my handicapping on this one, it didn't work out. I did have second, third, and fourth. I played 3 horses, and I had the 6, the 3, and the 4. It doesn't pay anything in the pick 4 that way, but I at least could, I had, aside from thinking that the horse could only run in the mud, I was right about this race.
Yeah, we talked about the 3 on the show, and why I left JC's Nightcap off because of the 5 furlong issue for me, that this was a 6 furlong race and that horse was going 5. That ended up being really the key to the race, is that JC's Nightcap went out like a bullet, couldn't get the distance, and also burnt Verrazano's First out by doing that. And that's what really set this out for the 2 closers.
It didn't help Gold Crusher either. We'll move on to the third. Aaron's watching. He says Verrazano Fourth. That should be his new name. We'll move on to the third leg of the late pick 4 sequence from this past Saturday at Sam Houston, race 9, the starter allowance optional claiming. We have a 5.5 furlong dirt race here. Bourbon Cowboy was a horse that you and I both really liked, Mike, because of the Scott Young Floyd Worthy Jr. connection. Cha-ching! We got this one right. 4.5 length driving performance there. Looked pretty good. What'd you think?
I thought Bourbon Cowboy looked amazing, man. I mean, this horse was able to just run right on by. This is just a nice one. When you can go 3 deep and get through legs like this, it's clutch. This horse just kind of kept doing what it's doing. And it, like you said, it dropped in class, but it already won its money back for the connections that claimed it. And that really was the key. We talked about these connections in the show, and they were able to just crush it. So I thought the Bourbon Cowboy ran a good race here. It's interesting to see if he was claimed or not, because this is one of those that I'm probably going to look back and want to play again if it comes back out for the same barn and same connections.
I was so sad because I thought, Coco Tiger, when we were looking at this race before, I was like, man, Sophie Doyle, she's going to be great. This horse's speed on the inside. We're getting 10-1. What happened there? Apparently, we weren't the only ones who thought about that, because she goes off as the 2-1 favorite.
Yeah, we saw some interesting. I mean, we'll talk about the 3 in the last race as well. We had a couple horses that went off significantly less than what they originally were set at morning lines. I think that is something that's kind of interesting to look at. This is one of them where I thought the 10-1 was much more attractive too. I'm not sure I would have loved this horse at 2-1. Still made the ticket, obviously, but it is tough when you have that type of jump in odds. And like they said, that's something you're going to see at some of these smaller tracks where people will get really excited based on what they were looking for.
Yeah. Aaron, boy, you're just full of jokes. Slow Tiger. Where were you in the first race? You didn't have a good joke for that one? Come on. All right, one last race here, and then we can get away from Sam Houston for a little bit. Race 10 to end things off, another maiden special weight. These were the Texas breds. These were the ones that made me go, I don't freaking know. I just throw darts at a dartboard. And to get back to Mark Heft earlier, I'd love to take advantage of the fact that I was like, I'm going to play the 1-1A. But I even said on the show, I like the 1A. If the 1A scratches just the 1, I don't want to play it. Well, thank God. I mean, if I was still alive, thank God I didn't listen to myself. The 1 ends up winning, and winning by the biggest margin of anybody on the day. So you did like this horse better than the 1A, so I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up moving this horse up to the next up ticket, I think it was, in my column. So I moved that horse up to the ones up to a 3rd pick for me here. And specifically, it was just where this horse was coming from. I mean, this is one of those situations where, what's the level here? But this was a maiden special weight, and this horse had run earlier, run well at Houston, then kind of came back at a mile, kind of seemed to quit off that. So I thought the cutback in distance was nice here. And the trainers 1 for 3, 33% off the layoff. So there was enough here to like the one. I didn't love this race. I mean, I was all over the 3 bubble line. I talked about that on the show. The 10 and the 6 were both scratched. Those were 2 of my original picks. So I was kind of backfilling other horses here. Look, the one to me just seemed like a logical contender and was able to run back to that first race and was able to kind of cut back from the distance and be able to get it done. So I was happy with Heavenly Rhythm here. And this is a nice payout. I mean, you look at this and it's the pick 4 pays $1,100, almost $1,200. And it really wasn't that difficult of a sequence to get to when you look back at it. And so it's another reason why I like this low takeout and I like these bigger fields and some beatable favorites.
Well, and this is why, to get back to your earlier point, in the first leg, we went short because we wanted to go deeper and have bullets to shoot. And it might not have worked out so well last race, but this one, I mean, the horse is going to pay $31. I mean, that's great. And that's, if you're alive into this last leg here and you're looking at that one horse and you're like, man, those will pays $1,200 for this one. And it can beat the 2, and it beats the 2. Gets the job done. So congratulations to anybody who had it, including Samich. Were there any other takeaways? I know we talked about the payouts being really nice. Were there any other takeaways other than thank you, Sam Houston, for continuing to give us a low takeout?
Pick 3s were huge again. I mean, we don't talk about pick 3s as much, but if you look at some of it, it's $1 base there with the 12% takeout. Getting one price home really balloons that up. So for me, I mean, that's kind of the big thing is that if you are playing the pick 4s or you're handicapping the card, focus on the pick 3s too, because there's some really nice payouts over those pick 3s. I know a couple of people hit some nice ones, talking like $500-$600 for a $6 ticket and an $8 ticket. Like it doesn't take a ton. So I think that's really the way to go.
Yeah. One last thing, and then we can move on from Sam Houston. Is if you've got a question and you're trying to keep throwing it in the chat here, send us an email, contact@racingnews.com, because I've been responding to you. You're not listening, so email, contact@racingnews.com. We'll take care of you. Mr. Samich, let's flip the page quite literally here. You had a tournament update. You basically were, like you said, 120 races that you were handicapping over the weekend, and you said it felt like NHC. So tell us a little bit about your contest experience from this past weekend.
Yeah, for sure. So this weekend was the FloCal. So if you go to horsetourneys.com, they do a great job of putting on tournaments every day. But man, they have 3 weekends a year. They have these monster tournaments where the buy-in range is anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500. You can qualify for less than that, for $118 or even down to $28 if you'd like to. One of the things it does is it forces you to handicap every single race. And it's kind of cool in that manner. So this specific one was every race at Santa Anita, every race at Gulfstream, Saturday and Sunday. One of the most common questions I think we get is, how do you come up with long shots? How do you get to long shots? And what races do you go deep in? What races do you go shallow in? I thought it was kind of interesting because when you look through this, there were 7 horses that wanted double digits at those 2 tracks all weekend. And there's a wildly common theme between those 7 horses. So the first one was Rose's Way, who won the second at Gulfstream. That was a $6,250 claimer. The second big number came from Citrus Burst at Gulfstream, and that horse won a turf sprint from just off the pace. The third big number was a Santa Anita in the 6th race, Just a Command, who won at 99-1 in the lowest level maiden claimer at Santa Anita. The fourth big price came in Santa Anita's 9th race, I believe it was, with Charmaine's Mia, who won a turf sprint on the lead. You'll notice it's 2 turf sprints, it's 2 lowest levels, so 6,500 claimers and a maiden claimer. One of them, all 3 of the 4 were on the lead or on the speed. Sunday, exactly the same thing. Out of the 7 races, 4 of them were the lowest level possible, 2 of them being claimer, 2 of them at Gulfstream, 1 at Santa Anita, and 3 of them were turf sprints, including the last race of the day at Santa Anita, where you had a 25-1 shot go wire to wire. And in the turf sprints, 2 of the 3 were on the lead as well. So I'm sorry, 3 of the 4 were on the lead as well. So all 7 races had a very common theme, either really low level where you're going to see higher variance, or turf sprints where you also see higher variance. So to me, if you're looking for long shots, looking at the type of race is something that you need to look at as much as looking for who the horses are, because in specific types of races, it's more logical to see results that have higher variance. And these type of races are the ones you want to take shots in tournaments, that you want to go deeper in pick 4 and pick 5 tickets, or possibly even hit the all button. And so that is where I would really focus on trying to find long shots. And one good way to start looking into it is to actually look at the races that you have, or that you're handicapping first.
I know Aaron went through this a few months ago, maybe, and said that one thing he realized is that all of a sudden he just had to change the low level, like bottom level for wherever track you're at, for how he was handicapping. And he basically said, this isn't going to be super helpful, but he said, whoever I used to think was the top horse, take him and put him fourth and bump everyone else up there, because those lower levels get all kinds of screwy and you're trying to guess who's going to feel like running. At Santa Anita on Friday, there was a horse that won. It triggered a record trifecta payout at Santa Anita, over 31K for 50 cents, with a $99.20 winner over a 12-1, 17-1, something like that, over a 7-2. And that horse, the trainer even said, he's like, I was going to ship him to Arizona. This race came up, and I figured I'd run him and then ship him to Arizona to Turf Paradise, where it's a lot easier competition. And the horse freaking wins. And that was a low-level claim. How the hell are you supposed to know that that's going to happen? The trainer didn't even think it was going to happen. He was trying to send him out of state. So that stuff can get frustrating.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's just everyone has good days, everyone has bad days. It's the same with a horse. And when you have less consistent efforts, you're going to see that at the lower level. And so for me, that's one of the when I'm playing these type of tournaments, when I'm playing pick fives and pick fours, I'm looking for, okay, what races have the likelihood of just having a random winner? And that's a lot of times where you want to take that shot.
Well, the one thing that I learned, and kind of touching on the turf here, is you still have to play speed on the turf at Santa Anita, and it can get downright deadly, especially if you're a horse that's breaking from the rail. Dr. Tang just brought it up right there. Mountaineer ships to Santa Anita, wins by a mile. That was the finale. Where the hell did that come from? The horse wins by 14 and a half lengths after really dropping from higher levels than Mountaineer, and then I switches to turf, and suddenly it's like, hey, I can run and go fast. It's freaking nuts. It was there were 7 stalkers that won, like close stalkers that won on the turf, 4 that won gate to wire, 2 came from off the pace, like well off the pace. So at Santa Anita, it feels like Gulfstream right now, where it's just like that turf course is lightning quick, and you've got to be up front, or else you probably don't have a shot in heck of trying to get up there, unless there's a massive pace meltdown. And those, I found, Mike, that when I was handicapping on Sunday, for example, I went 7 for 9. The 2 races I got wrong were the finale, and I think 1 or 2 races before that. They're both rail horses on the turf that I thought were going to get stuck in a speed duel and wilt, and they just went out there by themselves and off they went. So did you notice that at all, Santa Anita, where that turf seems to really be holding speed very well still?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean that one horse, and the one that we're talking about here on the thing that came from Mountaineer, man, it was logical to get to that horse as a early leader. It was tough to think that horse could win, but if you did pick that horse as an early leader and you thought that was going to be the speed, then I think that's the way to do it. I mean, you can include that ticket right now. If you know who's going to be in the lead in a 6 furlong sprint at Santa Anita, use the horse. Just use the horse, because I don't see how you kind of leave that off if you're going to have that type of, track hold up. And you saw it in the sprint earlier in the day as well, where you had a horse take a ton of pressure, was right up to the lead, and just no one could go by. It ended up being the first and second place horses the entire way around the track. So yeah, right now, especially at Santa Anita, and I'm shocked. I thought that 6.5 furlong distance on the turf, you were 100% going to see closers do well. But because you're coming from a 5 furlong sprint at Del Mar, and so you have this stretch out in the turf sprint division in California, and it's the opposite. It's speed that's holding so well. So right now, or until further notice, I think you got to play the speed if you can figure out who it is every time they're going short at Santa Anita.
Yeah, it's crazy. There wasn't a whole lot that happened this weekend. We could have talked about the stakes at Santa Anita. There wasn't really anything that surprised me. Write a Comet won at Gulfstream Park, looked really good. That's 4 straight wins, by the way, for him.
Huge time for number 2.
Oh, was it? Do you remember what it was, or just?
It was the highest of the weekend. I think it was like 127, 132, something like that.
Yeah, that's he looked good. It'd be 2 weeks. They were talking about Pegasus turf for him, but that'd be a pretty quick turnaround. So I don't think that'll happen. But we do have the Pegasus coming up in a couple of weeks. It's Lecomte Stakes week coming up this week. So plenty of exciting stuff over at racingdudes.com. I don't want to cut this super short, Mike, but was there? It was a lighter weekend. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover?
Not too much, man. We got the national championship game tonight.
Oh yeah, talk about that. Give us your picks. You're better at football than I am.
I've got the over in the first half. I think that's the best way to go. If you look at Alabama through the entire first half, or through the entire season, they have a tendency to run it up early in the game and then just turtle up in the second half and let their defense do the work. So their first half overs and first half sides have consistently been covering. Well, the game total has been going right around the number, and Alabama has not been covering. So to me, over in the first half is the way to go. It'll be interesting to see how Justin Fields is with the rib injury. So I'm going to probably watch that game, enjoy it, and have the over in the first half and just take it from there.
JP the Prez says that he wants the Selma bombs at Aqueduct. No carryover, paying up pick six every day this month. The pick six, that is nice. That there's no, nothing to worry about there. The problem with doing Selma bombs at Aqueduct, they don't have turf racing. You don't want the bombs with Summit. You really need those turf races.
Yeah, I might stray over there every now and then. Right now I'm focused on Gulfstream, but I might choose a couple tracks here and there to kind of stray away from, just because I know people want, or maybe do 2 on a Saturday, something like that, because I know people want Santa Anita picks and some Aqueduct picks. I got to figure out how I'm going to deal with Sam Houston too, because I don't want to be doing 100 races every weekend. It gets to be a grind in that sense.
You mean that's a little tough to do? Really? While you have a full-time job and a wife and a beautiful daughter?
What can you say?
Boy, who'd have thought that one? Yeah, I want you to make a proclamation here on the show, and we'll come back Thursday and see what happens. So by Thursday, by the time we start the live show, Doug Peterson will be the head coach of what NFL team?
New York Jets.
Let's go, JTES, Jets. I know Slim was excited about that, right?
I just hope by Thursday Deshaun Watson's a Dolphin. I hope that rumor is true, because I'd be happy to trade Tua and 2 firsters for Deshaun.
I'll trade you for Tua. I'll give you Stafford straight up. You can keep your firsters. How about that?
Pass.
Damn, I'm trying to find someone to take him. Yeah, he's a nice guy. He deserves to be on a team that can win once before he retires. Well, he was on Georgia, so I guess that counts. Yeah, screw him.
So what are we going to do for the pick 4 on Saturday?
What are we going to do for the pick 4? That is a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking Fairgrounds, because Fairgrounds we got the LeCompte, which is Derby Trail. The Oaks has the Silver Bullet Day. A lot of other. Yeah, this is a big stakes weekend. Gulfstream Park has the Florida Bred Sunshine Millions. California's got the Cal Bred Sunshine Millions. Yeah, that's what's going on. What do you want to do? Where do you feel most confident?
Let's do it, man. Let's do Fairgrounds. I haven't been back to Fairgrounds in a while, so let's take a shot there. I like covering the stakes card too. That'll be a popular one to go over.
Yeah, it'll be a good one to go over. I'm trying to think who else is Factor This going to be there? I remember that. Just play Factor This when he's in a race at Fairgrounds.
Yeah, he dominated there last year.
We'll see whether that happens. A shorter show, but we want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Magic Mike Show. We'll be back on Thursday. As you just heard, we're covering the Fairgrounds Saturday late pick 4 sequence. It's going to include the LeCompte Stakes, the Silver Bullet Day Stakes. We have two runners coming at Fairgrounds on Saturday. We have Staying Out Late in an allowance race, and then regular guy in the LeCompte. We'll see. Well, they can't do a whole lot worse than our second round pick.
Can't get worse.
Yeah, that's great. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys here Thursday, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this weekend, and go whoever you're betting on this weekend. Who did you have? I already forgot.
Over in the first half. Points.
There you go. Over in the first half. Don't care who wins, just get over. Good luck, everybody.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.